Hi, wonderful people, and welcome back to Voice Calling Out. This is Julia Hartmeier, and today I would like to give you some motivation to keep going in whatever process you are doing at this moment. I'm still talking about the series of The Real You, for which the main point of focus is becoming a real selves, which is something that is very, very important to me, as I am also preparing to become a psychotherapist, and the whole topic of growth and personal development is just my life's calling. But I realized as I was preparing for this particular video that actually what I have to say to you in this context can be used in whichever other areas in your life that you would really like to change something or grow in something or just have healthier habits or whatever else you are on the road of growing and changing. And if you see this excitement on my face, it's because it really fills me with energy and happiness when I realize actually the value of what I just discovered through wanting to talk about this to you guys. So without further ado, what keeps me going is something that I would like to talk about, because I am absolutely certain that this is not something that I found as a very special Yuli kind of thing, but it is also something that is universal and given and if you that this is something that is universal, and if we understand it correctly and we apply it to every individual correctly, then this is something for you as well, and I'm so excited for this. So what keeps me going? What keeps me going? And for me, keeps me going means, how do I want to become a better person or become the person I really was created to be, even though it takes a lot of hard work and wanting to change, which is something that is really hard for me. I really don't like to change. What keeps me going on this process, even though it is hard for me to want to change, is having understood how two different concepts go together and complete each other. And actually it was one of my biggest joys when I realized how this works, because I am generally an intellectually curious person, and some of you might know I've studied theology, and I'm finishing my studies in psychology soon, hopefully. and kind of understanding this makes my world become bigger and better by bringing these two together. It might seem a bit weird, but the way I called these two is, one is self-love and the other is shoulds. You should be doing this, as in you should be doing this. And I am really kind of internally and outside and externally laughing at this, because I know how these two represent two different philosophies that don't always communicate with each other, and the group of people who take love yourself as a part never ever uses the word should, or at least says they don't, and the other part again mostly is about what you should be doing and not about the love part. And I think that's very, very sad. Again, I'm very sick of this world taking sides, but it is how it is. However, I did find that these two go really together. And it makes me very happy, because in the Bible, these two are called the gospel and the law. So if you're a Christian, you will understand what I'm talking about. And if you're not, then I'm so sorry that I made this more confusing to you. I will probably have a video also explaining these two things in terms of what the Bible says about these. But in essence, what I want to say is that I believe, through what I've learned in the Bible and through what I've learned in my life, in my experience, and through what I've learned in psychology textbooks is that giving someone unconditional love and acceptance is really everything that they need in terms of being of having a ground upon which to grow. Love is like fertile earth, without which, no matter how good the seed, no matter how heavy the rain, or how good the sunshine, you won't have growth as a plant, let's say. And so this is why what keeps me going in part is learning every day to love myself through the love that I am receiving from God, and which is also reflected towards me from the people who are in my life, the ones who love me. And the way this works in me is that every time that I feel like this anxious wanting or having to do things that grow over my head, I just try and remind myself of the fact that no matter where I am in my life, no matter where I am in my process of growing, or in my process of writing my thesis, or in my process of cleaning my kitchen, it's not what matters in the end. What matters is that I am loved, no matter. And it really takes a lot of work accepting this. I think this is one of the hardest things as human beings, to accept that really we are loved. We do not have to perform anything to be loved. And this is not what the world is telling us, obviously. This is not what our bosses are telling us. This is not, sometimes sadly, even not what our parents are communicating towards us, not necessarily with their words, but with their actions. But this is the truth, and this is the truth that lies underneath many other truths. And when I find myself that I can really just rest in this love, then I realize that many of the things that I would like to do are not having the motivation that I would like them to have. For example, I would like to cook just because I would like to be loved by the people who eat my food. And then I realize, if I first feel loved and then I cook, then my cooking is a way of expressing myself, of becoming more myself, of showing a love that I've received, rather than my means of asking or begging for love. And so this is the basis for me. This is what really keeps me going, which is not as easy as I am saying it. It really does take reminding myself and slowing down to be able to hear the voice of this love, to be able to discern what I make out of love, out of the state of being loved, and what I make out of anxiety of getting things done or whatever. So even though this is very simple in saying it, it is not as simple in practice, and hopefully as time progresses I will also be able to show you guys more videos on this topic, or more practical advice on this. But this is my basis. And honestly, I don't think there's anything more universal to human beings than the need and the desire to be loved. This is why I said this is not a special recipe for my happiness. I think this is a universal recipe for everyone's well-being as well. Even though love may seem something different for me than for you, it's still love. And on that point, my second point, which I called the shoulds a bit, because I want to challenge the mainstream, is just being able to finally, healthily, in a healthy way, discern what these shoulds should be. Because you hear so many shoulds from well-intentioned people on how you should live your life, or from books on how to get from A to B, or even some people, this is how they read the Bible, as a list of shoulds and should nots, and do this or whatever. This is not how I read the Bible, but it was a really long journey before I realized how you should understand this kind of things, this kind of like promptings to take action in a certain way. And then I realized that, like in everything, in every goal that you have, in every dream that you want to achieve, there are steps to be taken, and there are things that are helpful for your dream, and there are things that will be an obstacle in that. And it was, for me, I know it sounds very, very obvious, but for me it was an eye-opener, because I am incidentally a person that really doesn't like people who say should. And even if that person is myself, if I go about my day and I say, oh, I should be going to the gym, like, no, I shouldn't, even though I would like to go to the gym and I think it's a good idea and I actually enjoy my time at the gym. Just because I use this word, or because I put it in this list form of to-dos, sometimes it really takes away all my motivation, all my inside freedom, which is weird, because it was me. And this is something that I've struggled with my whole life, people telling me shoulds, or indirectly telling me shoulds. So it was a very big revelation for me when I realized that these shoulds, at least from a perspective of grounded in love, are never intended to be a list of do that and then I will like you or I will love you, which is actually the subcontext, the subtext of almost every kind of should that we receive from these well-meaning people, that really doesn't sound like good advice, it sounds like judgment. And when I realized that there are shoulds that are actually intended as a way for you to grow in your personhood, then I suddenly started not seeing a difference between what I read in my psychology books, for example, a certain treatment for depression, let's say, that says that certain steps should be taken by the therapist, by the patient, by both of them in therapy, or when I read about healthy lifestyle tips, that you should be eating healthily, that you should be always checking with your doctor about your health, and so on. And also other types of shoulds, like the ones that the Bible says, for example, you should be loving your neighbor the same way that you are loving yourself. It suddenly didn't seem like this ominous something that is heavy on my shoulders. What it seemed like was like, hey, by the way, this is the ground you are, and in order to get from where you are to where you want to be, this is the step you need. This is the step you need to take, and this is for me something like a miracle, because there is so many things that we get wrong or crossed through our own wiring through our own filter of how we understand things, that very many good things get lost because we suppose they mean something other than they are. And what I found really in the last couple of years is that I have been changing in many aspects of my life. And even things that I always said to myself, oh, I'm gonna change in that, oh, I'm gonna do that, I should do this. And it never worked out. And I never figured out what's happened now that suddenly I have this new energy to invest in myself. Um, and then I realized that it is through slowly understanding and living out this truth that no matter where I am loved. And then even though I am loved, or because I am loved, that doesn't mean that I should just sit literally and metaphorically where I am. I should move forwards. I should work towards becoming the person I was meant to be. And I'm receiving a lot of I'm receiving a lot of joy through this process, because I can see how the world and the things that I've studied, the things that I see, and the things that I experience through my faith and through my life really make sense. And that is very, very beautiful to see. So this is what keeps me going, and I'm really sure that this is also something that has the potential to become your motivation for whatever you're facing as well. Love is what gives us the grounding that we need. And the other thing is, keep going. Don't ever sit and say, oh, I'm never going to change, or oh, I'm not worth it, or whatever. Really, these two things really go together. Because just think about this, if you only take the one side and say, I love myself the way I am, and I'm loved the way I am, and no changes is needed. That is true. There's no change needed for you to be loved. But if you are really loved, if you really love yourself, do you really want to stay the way you are in everything? If that is something that you can truly say yes to, then I'm very curious to meet you, because I've never met a person like that. True love means a real grounds for growth, because it is love. And this is what I really hope to motivate you, to help you wherever you are. If you are stuck in a process of whatever you are doing, ask yourself, take some time, or write me, contact me. Or if you're also further along in any kind of process that you're doing, see which part do you need more. Do you need some rest in love, or some taking action in love? Also, please do check out my blog. I'm writing stories there, and that is something that is one of my passions, to describe these kind of things in a way of a story. And last week's story, Facing the Beast, is a very, very special one to me. For one, the image is a very, very personal one. And for second, I do describe the way this love functions in a way that I hope will really move your soul towards it. So please check it out. It is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I'm posting new videos every second Wednesday. And I am actually very, very curious about what you think about these topics, what you think about what I'm saying. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'm just excited to looking forward into how this process develops in myself, but would be very, very, very happy and would feel honored if you would share something about yourself as well. Well, have a very nice week. Bye, wonderful people.